Welcome to another episode of Glimpses of a Glorious Past, an informal history of the Lawrence School Lovedale. In the last episode, we spoke of Mr. H.V. Prince and the school's Western Orchestra. Today, we will tell you the story of Pandit Jitendra Pratap, who will be remembered for as long as our school song Sabse Sundar is sung. We are most grateful to Chitra Gauri Lal, Deodar 1965, and Shri Gauri Dhiman, Deodar 1963, for so generously sharing information and material on their father, Pandit Jitendra Pratap, who taught in our school from 1956 to 63. Another sister, Lalita Gauri Deb, Deodar 1965, and their brother, Manindra Pratap Sahi, 1969, also studied at Lovedale. In his address as chief guest for founders in 1982, Mr. K.I. Thomas, who was the illustrious headmaster of school from 1950 to 1971, said, "As we sang the school song at the commencement of this program, it stirred up a lot of emotions in me. I wonder how many are aware that it was composed by Jitendra Pratap, who was responsible for the formation of the Indian Orchestra of school. He produced the song in 24 hours, words, music and all. He was a talented teacher and musician, but a highly temperamental person. He enlivened our weekly staff meetings with his sayings, both wise and otherwise. One day he exasperated me so intensely that I yelled at him, 'You will end up in a lunatic asylum,' upon which he exclaimed, 'How very interesting, sir. Only this morning I said to my wife, she was driving me crazy.'"
But who was Pandit Jitendra Prasad? Being modest about his noble lineage, he seldom talked about it, but his mother was from the Rana family which ruled Nepal at that time. He was the cousin of Vijayaraje Scindia, the Rajmata of Gwalior. His father Thakur Chandan Singh was a very erudite and learned journalist. He ran Nepali newspapers Gurkha Samachar and Tarun Gurkha and became the founder president of the All India Gurkha League in 1954. Born on November 21st, 1920, in Dehradun, Jitendraji spent his childhood among the musical maestros of the Gwalior Darbar. He trained under Ustad Hafiz Ali Khan, father of Ustad Amjad Ali Khan, who introduced him to Senya Baz. He also received training from Pandit Krishnan Rao Shankar Pandit. He further improved his musical knowledge at Shantiniketan, where he was closely associated with Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore. Realizing that something was eluding him, Jitendra Pratap then trained for 12 years and achieved his full potential at Maihar under the tutelage of Baba Alauddin Khan, father of Sarod Maestro Ustad Ali Akbar Khan and father-in-law of Sitar Maestro Pandit Ravi Shankar, in a musical style characterized by Suddha Vani in the Beenkar Ang. Pandit Jitendra Pratap was proficient in many instruments, but the sitar always remained his first love.
It is my privilege and honor to speak about Pandit Jitendra Pratap. Pandit Jitendra Pratap performed the first ever concert to inaugurate the now iconic India International Centre in New Delhi in January 1963. Late Pandit Chaturlal accompanied him on the tabla. In all, he performed more than 50 concerts and lecture demonstrations in India and abroad over 4 decades. Panditji was widely acclaimed for his knowledge of the intricacies of even lesser known ragas. Pandit Krishna Rao Shankar of Gwalior said this about him: He was devoted to the service of music, performed ably in the Jubilee functions of the Shankar Gandharva Mahavidyalaya and over the Akashvani. And Devi Chowdhury, sitar exponent, said, he was very close to my Guruji, Ustad Mushraq Hussain Khan. He was an ardent student of Ustad Alauddin Khan Sahab and one of the senior most performers of the sitar. He was a musician with a very good understanding of music. The highest praise, of course, came from his own Guru, Ustad Baba Alauddin Khan of Maihar, who wrote about him. He is my Dharmaputra. He has all my love and affection. With a view to see him at the highest level in the world of music, I have imparted lessons to him just as I would to my own son. I'm delighted to see his keen intellect and capacity to realize and appreciate the inner spirit and soul of my music. He is very fond of my method of doing the alap and playing the gat koda. His study and knowledge of the ragas are very keen and highly analytical. For 40 years, Pandit Jitendra Pratap taught Indian music in renowned educational institutions. He came to Lawrence School, Lovedale from the Rishi Valley School and then moved on to the Lawrence School, Sanavar. He also taught at the Sindhya Kanya Vidyalaya, Gwalior and Delhi Public School, Delhi. Known to be a perfectionist, he nurtured the love for music in innumerable students, taking on the challenge of getting them to play in unison at various school functions.
For over 30 years, Pandit Jitendra Pratap wrote for leading newspapers like The Statesman, Pioneer, Indian Express, and The Hindu. He reviewed music performances and wrote on many subjects connected with music. He used his analytical approach towards music to dissect performances, presenting his reviews with impeccable diction and gentle humor. He, however, did not hesitate to call a spade, and his critical analysis of performances of even renowned artists tended to put him in the center of controversies. Pandit Ravi Shankar was the son-in-law and disciple of Baba Ustad Alauddin Khan. Thus, they were Guru Bhais, knowing each other from the early 1940s. They were close, but their relationship had its ups and downs. A heated public exchange of letters took place in 1994 after a slightly less than glowing review of Panditji's performance in The Pioneer. Pandit Jitendra Pratap's open letter in response ended with a heartfelt, "A critic's job is onerous and thankless. As long as one writes eulogies, one qualifies for the title of quite knowledgeable and nice person. But even the slightest hint of criticism results in counterattacks." A letter from Pandit Ravi Shankar brings to life their rather complex relationship, ending with a fond, "With lots of love to you, you darned nasty fellow." Mukesh Sharma, the famous Sarod exponent, said about him, "He gave his opinion truthfully. If he thought one performed well, he would say so. Some critics today, if the performer approaches them, are ready to shower praises. He, on the other hand, always stuck to the truth." After he passed away on January 4th, 2013, Anjana Ranjan wrote in The Hindu, "Jitendra Pratap, eminent critic and artist, will be missed as much for his knowledge and integrity as his gracious ways. In the malnourished world of Indian art criticism, his was a name that spelt command, not merely because of his experience, having heard the greatest musicians of the country as they grew from youth to old age, but equally because of his in depth knowledge of music making and instrumental techniques. This is why, in his music reviews that appeared in The Statesman, The Indian Express, The Pioneer, and in the last decade of his life in The Hindu, the reader found a balanced view that placed a concert in perspective, as well as details of which technique or other musical aspect deserved praise or correction and why. Thus, he played the role of the critic as an objective teacher. We will always remember with affection and gratitude Jitendra Pratap ji's impeccable English diction that resounded with the gentility of his times, his adherence to etiquette in an era of shortcuts, and his unfaltering love for classical music.
Many do not know about his other talents. The multi-talented Pratap ji was an art photographer of international repute. His last portrait of Rabindranath Tagore was used by Satyajit Ray in his documentary. He was equally well versed in Carnatic, Hindustani, and Western classical music. Extremely well read and knowledgeable, he read a book every couple of days, even in the last few days of his life. People remember him fondly as an extremely social and hospitable person with a phenomenal memory for names and faces. When he passed away in 2013, many wrote to his daughters about him with affection and gratitude, even though he had left Lovedale 50 years ago. His service to our school lives on infinitely every time we sing our school song. Sabse Sundar जग से प्यारा विद्या का यह धाम हमारा, says Sangeeta Chima, former headmistress. It would have been a privilege to have met him while he was alive, and also I'd have loved to invite him to school. Lovedale has immortalized the melody of our wonderful music teacher, Mr. Jitendra Pratap. I'm ever grateful to Pandit Jitendra Pratap for evoking a love of and pride for Indian classical music and the sitar in particular, says Uttara Vidyasagar, batch of 1963. We, the Chaco brothers, all remember him very fondly. And for me, although I was a violinist in the Western Orchestra, he was an icon who nurtured the music in me and made me seek perfection. He was our escort in 1959 when we went to Sanawar. In Delhi, we were introduced to Pandit Ravi Shankar and Pandit Pannalal Ghosh. Those were historic moments, and it's only then that I understood his stature, says Jail Chaco, 1961. I have fond memories of Pandit Jitendra Pratap. I remember him playing the harmonium one evening when even Mohammed Rafi visited, says Salim Thomas, batch of 1963.
I joined school in 1956, and that was the time when Pandit Jitendra Pratap also joined school. He was in charge of the Indian music. Shortly after he joined, there was a function in the large hall, and he gave us a musical evening on his expertise on sitar. Well, there was a fantastic response from the staff and lukewarm response from the students. That was because in those days in Lovedale, people looked down upon all that was Indian and only looked up to Western music. Thereafter, Kit got up and said that we are lucky to get a great musician like Pandit Jitendra Pratap, and he is well known in Indian musical circles as a great exponent of sitar. One thing I didn't like in my first year was PT and parade, because every morning at 6:30 you are out there in the cold and either running or pounding your feet for the next 45 minutes. So in next year, that is 1967, I decided to join the Indian music. And Mr. Pratap welcomed me because he was quite happy to get one more person to join the orchestra. Well, I didn't know much about music, so he started me off on violin. There was a room next to the big music room which was used to keep all the musical instruments, but it's quite a cozy room with a lovely carpet and all that. Well, I got on to learning. Pandit Jitendra Pratap was a great musician, and he was the one who made the school song. That was in 1958. I was lucky to be the first batch of students who sang that in assembly. After creation of the school song, people started liking him because people started recognizing his talent. And thereafter, it was an easier time for him. I must say we are really, really lucky to have a teacher like that in school.
A befitting final message came from Venu Menon of 1984 in his letter to Chitra Gauri Lal. I was not even born when your family left Lovedale, and without ever knowing the composer, I greatly appreciated the words and music of the school song. It instilled pride in every Laurentian without the burden of colonial nostalgia. Pandit Pratap will forever live through this and his other great accomplishments. With this, we come to the end of another episode of Glimpses of a Glorious Past, an informal history of the Lawrence School Lovedale. Thank you for watching. If you would like to contribute to Glimpses in any way, please send an email to olalovedale@gmail.com with the subject line for Team Glimpses.
सबसे सुंदर जग से प्यारा विद्या गायन नाम हमारा शोभा इसकी अति नारी इसकी शान निराली है नीलगिरिया नील गगनया नीलवंशी जल समिरन शोभा इसकी अति नारी इसकी शान निराली है सबसे सुंदर जग से प्यारा विद्या गायन नाम हमारा इसका नाम अमर करेंगे इसकी शान बढ़ाएंगे बलमुठी में सर्वोत्तम कवि लॉरेंस कहाएंगे हार न मानेंगे हम हार न मानेंगे हम हार न माने हार न माने हार न मानेंगे